You know, it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to make some human rights jokes. Hey there guys, I'm Will, welcome to FP1 and the Comedy Review, the series that shreds drivers more than the Qatari curbs shred unsuspecting Pirellis. Can you tell I'm looking forward to covering this weekend? Yes, Formula 1 was back in Qatar after 2 years away, with the excitement coming into this one being on a level with that you get from walking into your prostate exam. Yeah, no one really cared about the Qatar Grand Prix in 2021, and that hadn't changed come 2023. At least to begin with. Now before we do dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you for all the support after the Japanese Grand Prix review. That was actually the first F1 review to cross over the 100,000 view benchmark. Kinda fitting, given that we're inching ever closer to that goal in subscribers as well. So if you end up enjoying the video and want to inflate my ego even further, please do click on that big subscribe button down below. As always, I'll be giving away some free race tickets later on with Headout, so keep an eye out for that. But now, let's get into the comedy review for the Qatar Grand Prix. Let's start things off with the news, and the big story lie with the FIA, which is always a good sign. After reviewing several possible new team applications, Andretti Global were given the go-ahead to join Formula 1 from 2025. The process was pretty rigorous, big names like Hightech and Rodin Carlin failing to make the cut, though in fairness, the latter were prepared to give Jamie Chadwick an F1 drive, or in other words, outed themselves as completely brain dead. Now don't get me wrong here, I'm fully down to have a woman in Formula 1, but let's be honest, if a male driver finished 12th and last of the full-time runners in Indy Lights, they wouldn't be touted for F1 success, would they? You know what, I'm not going to try and argue with the void, let's just move on. Andretti may have been given the green light by the FIA, though Formula 1 management and the teams themselves will still get a say in whether the American outfit will line up on the grid in a few years' time. And as usual, they're throwing their toys out the pram. I mean, you know it's bad when even #blessed is siding with the FIA. Oh, apparently he's not now. Well, make your f***ing mind up there. Also in the news this week was Aston Martin, who revealed that they would be joining the hypercar category in Le Mans. That meant wheeling out their Android for another interview, and while some of their personality patches seem to have worked, Stroll.ai seems to have a bit of a memory problem, being quoted as saying, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Yet still employing Lance Stroll. As you well know, we'll come back to him shortly. First though, we've got the only practice session of the weekend, as F1 prepared for another sprint event in 2023. Verstappen was the man who topped FP1, the Dutchman able to clinch his third world title this weekend if he outscores Perez by 3 points. And I don't know about you, but I'll be more surprised if Checo can score 3 points to begin with. As the cars struggled to stay on track in the windy and dusty conditions, Ferrari were running into problems of a different sort. Technical issues affecting both cars, including Leclerc's SF23 contracting diarrhea as it pulled into the pits. They at least recovered to second and third, with McLaren also looking quick despite only rounding out the top 10 on the timing screens. But with the first hour out of the way, it was straight into qualifying for Sunday's Grand Prix. Or if you were Lance Stroll, straight into the drop zone. It's fair to say that Lance has been particularly shit over the last few race weekends, and it appears he's now decided if he can't beat his teammate, he'll just settle on one of his engineers instead. Aston Martin have been surprisingly quiet on that little issue, but we do have more relevant drivers to discuss, so let's move on to Q2. Here we'd see some actual big names fail to make the top 10 shootout. Sergio Perez wasn't much of a surprise, though Carlos Sainz was. He would line up only 12th, 1 place ahead of Checo. At this stage, there really wasn't much debate over who would get pole. Max Verstappen had been on a separate planet compared to the rest of the field, only amplified when he chose to practically put his feet up rather than go out for a second run in Q3. Sure enough, no one was able to surpass his initial benchmark, including the two McLarens who even chose to make up their own circuit and were subsequently penalised during the post-session interviews. I won't lie, at this point it was looking a bit like your standard F1 weekend in 2023. Until Saturday morning that was, where we found out the Pirelli tyres somehow had less integrity than the Qatari government. At least Formula 1 should have learnt lessons from its tyre troubles in the past. The 2005 US Grand Prix springs to mind in this case, and we can rest in the comfort that the teams and drivers would have a solid plan to tackle this issue moving forward. Oh wait, they found out through Twitter. Never mind, we are fucked. Pirelli gave the argument that with the circuit being a new addition to the calendar, they didn't have time to run concrete tests on the track and compounds. Apparently, like many others, they'd also forgotten that we were here just 2 years ago, and that the only thing making that race somewhat interesting was the tyres falling to pieces. Their solution was to paint some additional curbs on the track and give the drivers an extra 10 minutes prior to sprint quali to learn the new layout. Whilst they monitored the situation, SQ1 went ahead, and Stroll went out again, though for once he wasn't the biggest embarrassment of the day. That award would go to Logan Sargent, who couldn't string a single lap together, ending up 40 seconds off the pace, and we wonder why Williams are deferring their driver decision till the end of the year. Amazingly, Sergio Perez would hook a lap together to make it into the top 10, as Lewis Hamilton, who had been protesting against human rights this weekend... Hang on a minute, that's not right at all, is it? As Lewis Hamilton had been protesting the human rights issues this weekend, also revealed that he was protesting against SQ3. He ended up 12th. Coming into that third session, we all thought Verstappen would run away and dominate again, though we couldn't be more wrong. The Dutchman made an error on his first lap, leading to his time being deleted, and come the end of the session, was only able to muster a time good enough for third. That left things open in the fight for pole, as we saw both McLarens duke it out for the top spot for the sprint. Oscar Piastri laid down the benchmark with a 1:24.4, though his teammate was on the Stormer behind. That was until the final corner, where he went on an adventure to Narnia for some reason and handed P1 to Piastri on a plate. As the Papaya Army tried to come up with a reasonable explanation as for why this wasn't Lando's fault whatsoever, I want to tell you about Headouts and how you can win free tickets to the next Formula 1 race in Austin. Headout, who have been kindly sponsoring the comedy reviews all year, are a ticketing company that can send you to amazing experiences all over the world, including a lot of the remaining Grand Prix on the calendar. They provide the best seats, for the best views, and at the best prices, which I've experienced firsthand when they sent me out to 3 of the Grand Prix earlier in the season. With the US round closely approaching, Headout are offering you guys some exclusive deals. Using the code FP1350 at checkout will grant you general admission tickets for the weekend at just $350. Alternatively, Turn 4 grandstand tickets are on offer if you use the code FP1500, and that will get you those for just $500. Those 2 deals are only available for the first 10 people who redeem them, so get in quick. I've also hid 2 codes in this video, which will offer 1 lucky winner each a weekend ticket completely for free. And if you're coming to this video a little later, then the FP130 code will still grant you 30% off your order regardless. So happy hunting! Now let's get to the sprint. With plenty of questions echoing around the Doha desert, 5 lights would go out to an all-McLaren front row, though it wouldn't stay that way for long. Lando Norris bottled yet another potential win when he failed to make it off the line. Both he and Piastri started on the medium compound and found themselves quickly pressured by the Ferraris and Mercedes behind on softs, only saved when Liam Lawson ended his first sprint appearance Nikita Mazepin style. With the Kiwi beach, the safety car was out, and as it came in, George Russell was straight away on the attack. Whilst further back, Norris's day was getting worse when Alonso briefly considered death down the inside. As we focused on them, Russell did what we all thought was impossible after Singapore, and passed the McLaren of Piastri to take the lead. The Briton then set about sailing away out front, though things wouldn't be as straightforward as that. Firstly, those soft tyres were already forming puddles on the Doha circuit, and secondly, Logan Sargent was being Logan Sargent, so creating a gap was going to be nigh on impossible. The safety car was out yet again, and now it was Sainz trying to muscle his way past Piastri, though the McLaren rookie held on for what arguably turned into the defensive move of the race. What definitely wasn't the move of the race was whatever the happened to Perez, Hulkenberg and Ocon here. Now I'm always up for a German hot dog, though this isn't quite the one I had in mind. Checo going out also made Max Verstappen an automatic 3-time world champion. And honestly, I'm frustrated with Esteban here for ruining what would have been a super tight battle that might have gone right down to the wire. I can't hold back the sarcasm here, I'm sorry. Anyway, by this stage, the soft tyres had gone off, and really gone off, and Piastri had now got back into the lead after an overtake on Russell on lap 11. With Jaws now turning into the extra chicane Pirelli probably wanted installed around this track anyway, Oscar soared off into the distance, as Verstappen and Norris took advantage of their mediums to battle their way back onto the podium. Come the end of lap 19, Oscar Piastri was an F1 race winner. I think anyway, I have no idea if the sprint actually counts. and Max Verstappen became champion of the world, and I don't think anyone cared. Having the title wrapped up on a Saturday is a bit of a weird feeling, I'm not gonna lie. A feeling that I'm sure got even worse for Perez when Red Bull revealed it had to change the Mexican chassis overnight, and that Checo would consequently start from the pit lane. That wouldn't be the end of the pre-race drama, as Pirelli revealed it had looked at its monitoring and decided that the cars would only be permitted to run on tyres for a maximum of 18 laps before requiring a pit stop. This is sounding more and more like Indy 2005 as we go on. Carlos Sainz's Ferrari then decided it wouldn't make the start after incurring a fuel system problem. Either that, or it couldn't fathom the Scuderia needing to do 6 pit stops over a race distance. Anyway, as we geared up for the start, all eyes were on Lewis Hamilton. He was starting on softs, so expected to make a good getaway, though whether he'd be able to make anything out of it without a safety car was anyone's guess. We would get a lap 1 safety car, though #bless would be the one to cause it. Maybe it's a good thing Toto Wolff isn't in Qatar this weekend. As Russell played swear word bingo over the team radio, we got going again, Verstappen holding off Piastri and Alonso at the restart. George's race had gone so badly, he was now battling with Sergio Perez, though he was able to barge his way past on lap 7. He would battle his way through the pack as the overtakes came in thick and fast, as were the penalties for Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso, meanwhile, was complaining of a sore arse as he tried to make some headway through the field. Mistakes like this won't help though, and maybe someone needs to tell him that, as there he goes again. Strategy was of course playing its role, and with the added 18-lap limit imposed by the FIA, this felt more like an IndyCar race, in the sense that I had no f***ing clue what was going on. What we could tell, however, was that the drivers weren't enjoying the hot conditions. Logan Sargent was worst affected, and by lap 44 had practically turned his helmet into a fish tank full of sick, forcing him into retirement. Still, in the words of David Coulthard, at least the car will be in one piece. DC writing my jokes for me, it seems. As we got into the closing stages of the race, Verstappen had well and truly checked out front, leaving us with a battle between the two McLarens for second and third. Lando Norris has been a bit of a salty bitch this weekend, and this trend would continue when his team imposed team orders to prevent a repeat of what happened in Monza. That meant the podium would stay as it was, with Verstappen taking win number I've lost count and it's too late in the evening for me to bother to look it up of the season. A pretty decent race then, though a killer one for the drivers. I honestly can't think of a time where we had conditions like it, and with the short fast stints only magnifying the problems, Pirelli are going to have even more to answer for in the 2 weeks before Austin. We do need to mention Max Verstappen though and congratulate him on an utterly dominant season. Now all focus will shift to Perez and whether he can keep hold of P2 in the standings, which sounds ridiculous given how dominant that car is, but then again, it's Checo Perez. What did you think of the race though? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate you leaving a like and helping us get even closer to that 100,000 subscriber milestone. Maybe even by the end of the year, the rate we're going. Don't forget to check out Head Out via the links in the description, and of course a huge thank you goes out to all my patrons and channel members for your continued support. If you'd like to join in and receive early access to some of my content, then be sure to head to the relevant part of the description. There's no race this week, but I'll have a video or two out regardless, so I'll be seeing you soon enough. But for now, that's all from me, so have a good one.